Hi, everyone. I'm Amber, and welcome to my corner of the internet. It wasn't my intention to make two sad videos back to back, coming back to my channel, but sometimes that's just the way the world turns. Today, I'm going to be discussing a very tough topic for me and maybe for everybody, but I need to talk about it, okay? Some of you might know and some of you might not, but January 14th, 2016, my family experienced the tragedy, and it's been 10 years since that tragedy. I did post a video of a year after that tragedy for 2017, and I'm gonna link it down below so that y'all can go watch it if you'd like to. I haven't seen that video in years. And the first time I finally watched it was maybe about 2 days ago. And it was so heartbreaking seeing young me not really know how to still process what just happened, even though a year had passed by. I still gave some fairly good grief advice in it for somebody who was just experiencing a really, really, really tough portion of grief. But I always knew for a couple years after that, I wanted to come back to the internet and update myself about what grief has been like. And it felt like I do it whenever it's 8 years or whenever it's 5 years. And as the world just continued to pass by in the blink of an eye, I was just like, I have to do something for the 10-year anniversary of the tragedy. And it was really, really hard for me to talk about it. It's still hard for me to talk about it. And I don't think I realized how hard it was for me to talk about this topic until I recorded a video about it and posted on TikTok, and 1,000,001 strangers made me realize I should be talking about it, because I should be keeping their name alive as possible as I can. And if this is something that's going to help me, here we are. Me posting that video on TikTok made me realize I'm not as healed as I thought I was. And that kind of sucks, because I thought things were a little better. And I do think that things are a little better for sure, but I don't think I thought it was as better as it's not. Did that make sense? That didn't make sense. It's not as good as I was expecting it to be, okay? I was thinking, okay, now, the memories of it all is just a different portion of my grief, and that's no longer where I live. I don't sort through those files in my brain anymore. But when I activated said files, everything just, it was a lot. And I wasn't expecting it to be that much, but it's a lot. And I have to bring my family into this. I have to definitely have a conversation with my parents and with my older brother and with my cousin, my older cousin and my little cousin. I have to have a conversation with all of them, because I don't think as a family we talked about it enough. I don't think we talked enough about our grief. And the more that I am talking about it out loud to myself in the presence of my own home, as just me, the more I realized there was so much that didn't get unpacked. When you don't unpack your suitcase from a vacation and you just kind of leave it there, and you forget that you left some of the clothes that you really needed in that suitcase. So now for the past 3 weeks, you've been looking for this one specific shirt in your closet, in the laundry room. You think you left it at your mama's house, and the whole time it's just been sitting in the briefcase that you never unpacked. That's what it feels like. And it's so crazy to me. It feels like I unpacked a briefcase, a suitcase that I haven't touched in 8 years. I just blew my own mind. Hold up. But I really wanted to come to this video to discuss grief and how grief has felt 10 years post a very traumatic situation, and also just to unpack the night in general, because I've never really done that. I think I unpacked it once when I made my 1 year video. And even then, there was a lot that I didn't say because I don't think I was ready to, but I think I'm ready to now. So, okay, let's get into it. Let's do it. So January 13th, 2016, it was a Wednesday. I was 19 and I was in college and I was going to the community college at the time. And my mom let me know, your auntie and them are gonna come over later today. Awesome. December just passed. We just saw them for Christmas, right? My mom's birthday is Christmas Eve. So naturally for Christmas Eve, everybody comes to our house and we celebrate my mom. And then we also celebrate, oh my gosh, it's Christmas. It was a really, really, really great Christmas. And 2015's Christmas was hard already because we just lost my grandfather, my mom's dad, a few months prior to Christmas. So Christmas was really interesting already. You know, it was already this weird shift because he was no longer alive, but I felt like everybody being together helped make something feel a little lighthearted. We're here together and we're just going to try to make my mom's birthday as best as possible. We're going to try to make Christmas as good as possible. Everybody was there. It was really, really nice. For the first time in a long time, everybody was available and present, and they were there. And the house was just so full of life. It took a long time for the house to be full of life again. And I think because of that, I no longer like Christmas. It's because that was the last Christmas all of us were okay. So I'm going to use names. My auntie is just my auntie. That's what I call her. My cousin, her real name is Crystal, but I call her Bella. My little baby cousin, her name is Aaliyah. Bella had a Christmas present for me. And I believe we still had some Christmas presents under the tree for them. They came over maybe at about 9 o'clock. This was an aunt that I saw every week, every weekend, someday throughout the week. Like it was just, she lived maybe about 25 minutes away from us, 20 to 25 minutes. And she was my mom's only sister and she was my mom's best friend. Something, and I don't know what. And I think I've been chasing that what for a lot of years. And I can't come to the conclusion of what was. But something was in the air that made everything feel claustrophobic. And that had never happened. Me and my mom have talked about it, but it was many years ago. We haven't talked about it since. But there was something in the air that just was not right. And I don't know if that was like death. I don't know if that was like a warning sign. I don't know if that was just really strong intuition. Something was there that night. And I can still feel it. You know, whenever something happens and you look back on it and you're like, what could I have done to prevent this? Was there a sign that was shown to me that told me I needed to stop doing this? Are the saxophones in the back playing? And that's pretty much what it was, right? But you don't think about it in the moment. You brush it off. I'm doing a lot. Let me go back to minding my business. And then something happens. My aunt and my cousin were mad at each other. They were arguing, and that's fine. I mean, mother and daughter, you know, people argue. It was a little abnormal because I didn't see them argue often, but this argument was different. They argued the whole night. And that never happened before. It started getting really late, which again was normal, but it wasn't normal because it was the middle of the week. Everybody had work the next day. I had class. What are we doing, right? But it felt like every time me and my mom tried to intervene into the argument and just kind of shift like, hey, y'all, like, there's a lot going on. Y'all don't have to do this. It felt like that didn't matter. Aaliyah kind of jumped in and was just kind of like, y'all stop yelling, you know, like she was so intelligent. Oh my gosh. She was one of the smartest 3-year-olds I ever met in my life. And she was trying to like de-escalate the situation, which is interesting. The argument came to a close, but it didn't at the same time. It was just kind of like okay, we'll stop talking. You're right. Let's get home. Everybody can sleep on it. We can discuss this tomorrow. Aaliyah didn't want to go home. And that was abnormal because her grandfather was there, my auntie's husband. So her pawpaw, right, was at the house and she loved her pawpaw. She did not want to stay nowhere but home so that she could wake up to pawpaw. And that's just what it was. So it was really strange and it felt like she was basically begging me and my mom to let her stay. But we couldn't because my mom had to go to work. There was nobody that was going to be able to watch her. And my mom promised her, we'll see you this weekend, it's almost your birthday. And we watched my auntie walk out the door, Aaliyah walk out the door. Well, she was carried out the door. No, I think she walked. Very intelligent baby. And my cousin. And for the first time ever, we didn't hug goodbye. I didn't hug my auntie goodbye. I didn't hug Aaliyah goodbye. I didn't hug Bella goodbye. Because I didn't think that would be the last time I saw them. I didn't think that would be the last time I saw them. Oh my gosh. Wait. Whew. Hello, I'm back. Like I said, honestly, there's just been a lot of things that's been unpacked for me over these past couple of days. And apparently that was one of them because I completely forgot about that part of the night. Whew. Okay, let's finish this. They walked out of the front door and they just kind of left, and my cousin turned around and she told me, she looked me dead in my face and said, call me in 20 minutes. Because that's about how long it takes for them to get home anyway. They were going to make it home maybe at like 1:50, 2 o'clock in the morning. She was like, call me in 20 minutes. And I chuckled and I'm like, call you? Because we just didn't do it. Like, call you, okay. She's just like, yeah, call me in 20 minutes. And we just made like a joke about it. And I'm like, okay, 20 minutes. And she's like, 20 minutes. And then she left. And I closed the door. I locked the door. I went back with my mom and we kind of just got caught up in discussing what happened. Because like I said, that was really just abnormal. That was just so weird. And all of it was just really, really, really weird. And we just kind of chatted about it, me and my mom, and calling my cousin slipped my mind. And that's something I haven't unpacked yet because I feel like if I called her, maybe it would have stopped what ended up happening. And maybe what ended up happening already happened. And if I did call her, she wouldn't have picked up anyway. I don't know. My mom went to bed and I should have went to bed because I had class. But I didn't. I wasn't tired. I didn't want to go to bed. So I stayed in the living room downstairs on my computer, called my best friend, and we just chatted on the phone until about 5 a.m. And then I heard movement upstairs. And I should have known because 5 a.m., my dad always gets up at 5 a.m. because not only is he an early bird, but he has to be to work, right? So I'm hearing all this movement. I'm like, okay, that's obviously my dad. This is bad. Like dad's gonna see that I'm still awake and he's gonna be upset. Why are you still awake? You're gonna be tired in class. Like I've told you about this, whatever. My dad's always told me about my nocturnal ways because I've always just been a night owl. I don't want to go to sleep, right? And I heard my dad walk out of his room, minded my business, stayed on the phone with my friend, continued to play on my computer. But I heard him say my uncle's name. But I still was like, what am I supposed to think? I still just didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, again, back to minding my business. But his voice, my dad's voice, had this shiver in it that I've never heard from my dad. But I still was like, mind your business. He got off of the phone and he just kind of sat there. At least that's what it sounded like. It just went to total silence. And then he called down to me because he saw that the light was on. And I'm like, okay, yes, Dad, I'm up. And then he got up and I heard his feet come down the stairs. And he had this look on his face that still to this day I've never seen. And I knew something was wrong. I'm like, something's up. Before I was in the world of losing my auntie and all the other people that we lost after my auntie, I didn't look at things as think of the worst first. I always looked at why think of the worst at all, right? I no longer think that way. I always think of the worst first so that you're already pre-prepared. And I think what happens to my auntie just traumatized me into that. So that's just who I am. I'm just like, okay, if you say anything and there's no context, I'm immediately going to the worst until you tell me otherwise. So that I'm already prepared. I'm already there. But at the time, that wasn't me. So I had no idea what my dad could have said to me. And he said, we got to talk about something. All right. I get out the phone with my friend. I move my computer. And he sat down on the couch. We had like two couches. We had like a couch and a love seat. And he sat down on the love seat. And he said, come sit down next to me. And I'm like, okay. So I get up, I sit down next to him. I'm looking at him and I was like, Dad, what's wrong? And it took him a few moments. And he had this like star in his eye. Like he was not ready to tell me what he had to tell me, man. He was just like, your auntie and them got in a car accident. Okay. Again, didn't go to the worst. What hospital are they at? Like, okay, well, let me go put my shoes on. Let's get ready, whatever. I'm thinking somebody broke a leg. I don't know. I've never been in a car accident prior to what happened, right? So I don't even know how car accidents work. I'm just like, okay. And he's like, Amber, none of them survived. What? I can't imagine the look I gave my dad. I need to ask my dad if he remembers the look I gave him when he told me that, because what do you mean? So I'm just kind of like, so what do we do? What do you mean? Like, okay, my brain started running 1,000,000 miles an hour and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I just got off the phone with your uncle. The police came to his house, said they got in a car wreck and neither one of them survived. Okay. My dad was like, we have to go tell your mom. We have to go wake your mom and we have to tell her because we have to go over to his house for confirmation to make sure this is not the Twilight Zone. We went back to their room and I stood in the doorway and watched him cut the light on and gently wake my mom. This part, actually, me and my family remember differently. So I'm just going to tell you what I remember. I remember my dad telling my mom that my aunt and them got in a car accident. But I also remember him telling her that they did not survive. But my parents don't remember that part. They remember it as my dad just said they got in a car accident. We have to go to her house for confirmation. We have to go to her house to make sure she's okay. I don't know. That part's fuzzy for all of us, I guess. So I don't know what part, I don't know if it's true. I don't know what part is true. So I ran off and grabbed my phone and called my brother. My brother is my only sibling, my older brother. And I remember while the phone was ringing, I remember praying to God that he answers this phone. Because it's like, it just felt like in that moment I needed him. And he answered the phone. Hey, Am, what's up? And I burst into tears. And he's like, what's wrong? Naturally, right? And I'm like, ain't them got in the car accident and they said they all died. And I was just boohoo crying. And I was like, Mom and them said to meet us at Annie and them house. We finna go and see what's going on. Okay, we hung up. Everybody put on their jackets. It's cold, it's chilly. And we just got the worst news of our life. We all piled in the car and we went to my auntie house. And it was, even still to this day, it was the quietest car ride of my life. I didn't hear the tires rolling on the pavement. I didn't feel anything. And we pulled up to my auntie house and I didn't see my cousin's car. And for me, that was my confirmation. Where her car at? We go up the stairs, we knock on the door. My uncle opens the door and he bursts into tears. We walk in the house and he confirms to us they're dead. The wail that erupted from my mom is something I hope I never experience her make that sound again, because I watched her lose her mind. I watched her run around the house and scream and cry and I didn't know what to do. I felt numb. I didn't know how to react. It was so much. And Bella had a son and he was 9 and he chose not to come over our house that night, which was also abnormal. Usually he comes, but he chose not to this time. And it saved his life. He doesn't even know what's going on. We had to call my older cousin, Bella's brother, my auntie's son. My auntie only had a son and a daughter. We had to call him, and my dad opted from telling him what was going on. He was just like, you need to come to your mom's house right now, immediately. Me and my cousin remember that differently too. My cousin's just kind of like, why? Like, what's going on? Like, what's up? And my dad was like, just come. We had to call everybody. We had to call the entire family, like cousins, uncles, aunts. We had to call my grandmother. The neighborhood filled up with cars and the house filled up with people. My uncle was calling people from his side of the family and my dad was calling people from his side of the family. And it was just a lot going on. My older cousin finally shows up and he's like, what's happening? And my dad didn't have the guts to tell him, maybe not the guts, but I just think there was already just so much going on. And my dad was just like, and I don't remember this part, but my cousin says apparently I'm the one who told him what happened when he showed up. I don't remember that part. That part's still to this day is completely blacked out of my mind. So honestly, because I don't remember it, I can't remember what he looked like. I can't remember what his face was. I had just told him that he lost his mom, his only sibling, his little sister, and his only niece in a car accident all at once. A lot of the guys were trying to map out where did the accident happen because we still didn't know where it happened. It was so strange. I'm like, where are the police? The police came and told you what happened, but they didn't tell you where. Like, how do we get there? Like, what's going on? So I told them, do y'all think it was on that curve? There's this really weird, narrow curve that if you're driving too fast, you're gonna pop it. You're gonna jump it. I brought that up. Everybody was like, let's go to the curve. So they drove to the curve. I stayed home. I don't want to go. They drove to the curve and they came back and they told me that's exactly where the accident happened. They were still cleaning up the accident. Bella was driving. Her work badge was on the ground and they collected that. And there was a necklace and they gave it to me. And I just felt like that was enough for me. I was like, I want to go home and I want to go to sleep. Because mind you, I've been up. By this point in time, it's like 12 in the afternoon. I want to go to bed. And I went and I took a nap. And when I woke up, the house was quiet. It looked like it was like maybe 4 p.m. And I rolled over and looked at my bedside table. And I saw her name tag just sitting there. And I burst into tears because it made me realize I wasn't dreaming. This just happened. I'd be lying if I said I remembered what happened after that. I don't know. I went into a blackout, and the only thing I remember was having to help my mom write the obituary. And 2 days after the accident, it was broadcasted on the news, on our local news station. My cousin was driving too fast on the curve and lost control, hit a decorative boulder, and the car went airborne. And they were ejected out of the car. And all 3 of them died on scene. That part's hard. Like, there wasn't even a rush to the hospital, a flight to the hospital to try to save. And for the first time ever, with no warning, they showed her car. And I can see the car. She loved that car, man. It was a Mustang convertible, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like a burnt orange. She worked so hard to get that car, man. They showed it in the most demolished state I think I've ever seen a car in my life. It looked like a crumbled piece of paper. It looked like somebody crumbled a piece of paper into a ball, but in car form. That was very traumatizing to see. I don't think any of us were expecting to see that on the TV. That was extremely traumatizing to see. And the camera panned, they were still cleaning up, right? The camera panned to a stuffed animal, and it was like a pillow pet. It was a purple pillow pet, and it was a leopard. Aaliyah brought that pillow pet over to the house because it's what she got for Christmas. And I remember asking her, "What did you name your pillow pet?" And she's like, "This is Lulu Leopard." And they showed Lulu Leopard on the TV. I don't think nobody knew how much that crushed my soul. Nobody could have imagined how crushed my soul was when I saw her stuffed animal on the pavement. I can see it. So clearly, I can see it. Just lost. We had to get 3 caskets, figure out what we needed the morgue to dress their bodies in. We had to plan a wake. When we had a burial for 3 people, Aaliyah died 4 days before her 4th birthday. January 19th, she was going to turn 4. And we had to bury her. I think another one of the hardest parts about that, and about kind of being the host family in a sense, I guess, is all of the unnecessary people in your house. And I think people don't talk enough about that part either. Because you know how like you have a repast, everybody doesn't have a repast, but for those who don't know, a repast is something that you do and that you hold after funerals where you pretty much like feed the party, like not the party, it's not a party, but you feed the attendees, the people who showed up for the funeral get fed, and we all just kind of eat together and I guess discuss our sorrows. I don't know. Repasts are weird. And I don't think I realized how weird repasts were until we had one then. And maybe it's because I wasn't hungry. I didn't like that my Amy's death brought so many people together who ain't seen each other since high school, and everybody was acting like this was some kind of family reunion, some kind of family gathering, some kind of birthday party. And we had the repast at our house. Now, me and my mom did talk about that. There was just so much going on and everybody's brain was scrambled. I don't think we thought that part through because it felt like I was hosting a party. You know, it's like I had to check on people. Why people not checking on me? People coming up telling me, I haven't seen you since you were 6. Okay. I was your auntie's best friend. My auntie never talked about you. Yeah, me and Bella used to do this, and that. And maybe that's me being inconsiderate. Maybe that's me doing too much. But the last thing I need after I just had to bury 3 people and I was the last person to see them alive, it's for you to come up and tell me that you dated my aunt in high school. People are weird. Oh my gosh. And it's like nobody else had to deal with the aftermath. That's what it felt like to me. Nobody told me that the world keeps spinning when you lose important people. Why am I watching people walk down the street or go to the park? And why am I angry at them that they're happy? They're laughing. I just had to bury my aunt, my 2 cousins, and you're enjoying the sunset? Like, what? I think another one of the worst parts about it was that I had to watch my household shift. And that was strange. I witnessed my mom turn into a different person. And I think about it often because it shifted our family so much. It felt like my presence didn't matter. And I don't know really how to further explain that. Like, it felt like there was nothing I could do to help my mom because there wasn't, right? But that was hard for me to process because me and my mom are like this. So it was hard for me to process the way that she was dealing with her own grief. And it made me realize that grief is not the same. I thought everybody just felt the same thing. Everybody's just really sad. Okay, you're really sad. You move on with your day. No, I wish it was that easy. It's not, unfortunately. So I had to watch my mom go through depression. I watched my dad go through depression. I watched myself go through depression. And that was interesting. That was my first experience of depression, was in 2016. And I think about 19-year-old me a lot because I processed my grief alone. And that was by choice because I felt like I couldn't do it with my parents. I felt like I couldn't do it with the rest of my family because I didn't want everybody to cry. I didn't want to feel like I was burdening their own grief without realizing that I wasn't helping myself. Does that make sense? I needed an outlet. I needed to talk to my dad and my mom and my cousins and my brother and my aunts and my grandmother and my uncles and my friends and myself and a therapist and strangers and I the moon and the stars in the sky. I needed to talk to somebody and I didn't. I kept it all to myself because I felt like I had to be the strong one. Because for the first time in my life, my mom wasn't strong. My dad wasn't strong. And I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know what to do. And I don't think they know that to this day because we don't talk about it. We don't talk about this subject. Not really. I didn't want to stay in that house because the house that was full of love and laughter and just sweet moments and cherishment and music and food and just abundance was quiet and the silence was loud. It felt like music wasn't loud enough to drown out how quiet the house was. I used to stay longer at my community college after classes. I used to do my homework at the college. I used to just read at the college. I used to I used to do everything I could to not have to go back home. Fast forwarding, it took maybe about 3 to 4 years for my grief to kind of shift into a good memory grief kind of situation where I was just like, I remember when Annie used to do that. I remember when Bella used to do this. Remember that one time Aaliyah said, you know, and it felt comfortable to say their names and to speak about them out loud. But it's been 10 years and I still haven't fully processed what on earth happened that night. And that's weird. And so the deeper I get into grief and the deeper I realize what it did to me, made me find out that that grief doesn't have a time limit. And that's annoying. Like, why? Grief is very subjective and it's very complex. And everybody doesn't experience grief the same. Because my grief, I lost my aunt, I lost both my cousins. My mom's grief, she lost her sister and her niece. She watched that niece get birthed. She watched that niece give birth. You know, their grief isn't the same as mine. My grief isn't the same as my brother's or my cousins or my uncles. Your grief isn't the same as mine. Everybody's grief is so different because I can talk about grief all day, but I can't relate to your grief, especially if it's from somebody who hasn't passed for me yet. You know what I mean? I don't know the grief of losing parents. I don't know the grief of losing a sibling. I don't know the grief of losing a child. I don't know the grief of losing a partner. I don't know any of that grief. I can't help. I can't do that with regular grief. I can't do that if me and you lost the same person. If you're experiencing grief right now, I want you to know that there's a support system for you, even if you feel like there isn't one. You know how many people on the internet I've met because of this story that have made me realize that there are people who care? There's people who care. People care about your grief. They care about your story to tell. They care about your feelings. Don't be scared to release that. Don't be scared to cry, to speak out loud about it, to scream, to yell. Don't be scared to write it down. Don't be scared to talk to them. The person that you lost, talk to them. I talk to my auntie all the time. My auntie visits me in my dreams. It's a beautiful thing. Know that whenever people say it gets better, that it does. But also know that everybody's better isn't everybody's better. And everybody's time isn't the same as other people's time. So just because it's 10 years for me and I feel a little more, you know, we can talk about it, we can chat, we can cry, we can move on, doesn't mean that you're going to feel that way in 10 years. It doesn't mean that you're going to feel that way in 10 months. But it also means that maybe you will. Just know that everybody handles grief completely differently. And don't feel like the way that you handle grief is the wrong way. Because there's no such thing as a wrong way to grieve. I think it's really hard to deal with grief because you start to feel bad for being happy. I know I did for a long time. I started feeling bad that I was happy. But it's okay to be happy. You have to continue to live. And my dad taught me that. And it's something that we look at. I think me and my family look at death a lot differently since 2016. And we openly talk about it. We openly talk about death. You have to talk about death. Death is part of the life cycle. It's inevitable. We all gonna die. But nobody knows when. So it's just kind of like, whenever you're more comfortable talking about it, at least for me, it becomes a little less scary. It's not a taboo subject for us anymore. And I want that to be less of a taboo subject for more people. It's okay to talk about death. It's not you speaking it out in the atmosphere. It's already in the atmosphere. So at least talk about it in a positive light and just know that it's okay to be happy. It's okay to be happy because time don't stop for anybody. You have to keep living. Even if that means that you feel like you're living for them, live for them. They can't live anymore. Live for them. I think that's all I have to say. I said a lot, but you know what? I feel really good. I feel so good. It really makes me know that I need to talk to my parents and not to make them feel bad or anything, but I need to see if they need to talk about it too, because maybe they do. If y'all have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I got you. If not, I really appreciate you in passing. Thank you for watching my video and for tuning in and for caring and just thank you for being here. And thank you for knowing that You're not alone in the grieving process. It feels like it, but you're not. You never are. You don't have to be breathing, but you are. You're not frozen in time like our loved ones who passed away. Time is still ticking for us. Take advantage of it. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. This is not what my channel is going to look like ever. So if you'd like to subscribe, that's perfectly fine. I'd really appreciate it. If not, I really do appreciate that you stopped by and chose to watch anyway. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a really good rest of your day, babe. Okay, bye.